What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, and also featuring that next mod as well, as we are starting to get into the later parts of the season here in week number 6, and we got 8 games of absolutely fantastic FCS football action for you guys. So I'm hoping you guys are ready for it. And if you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new, as we will not hesitate. We are going to go right into the action here, as Arkansas Pine Bluff is going to take a 3-0 lead. They take the field goal, but this will end up being a battle between backup quarterbacks, as Jacob Coolbeans, he gets that great throw down the field. He's going to go up against J.C. Davis, who's also one of your guys' custom players as starting quarterback for the Catamounts. Michael Young, he is actually currently suspended right now. So a key game here for both teams, as we have already a top 15 matchup to start this episode out. There's going to be quite a few top 25 games. That is a big time play by Corey Hopkins down the sideline. Can he outrun the wide receiver? And he doesn't. Oh, but he was so close to taking that all the way back to the crib, as Jacob Coolbeans, he was not looking cool. He was telepathically throwing that out route, and Corey Hopkins, he was simply all over it. So now the Catamounts will take over inside the 5-yard line. Going to hand off to the tailback, and the tailback is going to run his way into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Catamounts, and that's how Western Carolina gets their first points of this football game, and they will take a 7-3 lead in the last couple of minutes of this first half. We'll see if Western Carolina can extend that lead even further, as we do have a kick in the air, and it's going to be caught, and there's going to be some space on the outside, something that this receiver is going to take all the way down the sideline, and that's yet another touchdown for the Catamounts. And in spite of having literally less than 50 yards of total offense here in this first half, they're going to have a 14-3 lead. But then Jacob Coolbeans, he's going to throw a strike down the right-hand side. He's going to get a big play of his own. That's going to go for a 1st and goal inside the 5-yard line as well. That's a one-on-one matchup on the outside. Coolbeans just throwing enough power on there. It would run with that football in stride as well. But we'll see if the Golden Lions can finish down here in the red zone. We did see them turn the ball over last time they were down here, but this time they are going to run the football with their stud running back, Adam Carter. Hey, Mr. Carter, tell me, where have you been? He's been showing in the end zone. The Golden Lions are right back into this football game, and a lot of action unfolding here in the last couple of minutes here of this first half, as both J.C. Dallas, who has been a backup quarterback for quite some time here in the series, and Jacob Coolbeans, they're battling things out. We got ourselves a fight on our hands. But we'll see if J.C. Dallas can finish that first half strong as well, as we pick up with a 1st and 10 from the 29-yard line, as Dallas, he's going to throw on 1st and 10. He's going to fire. It's going to be caught. Touchdown, Western Carolina, and the Catamounts strike once again. Another score for a team that could find itself as the #1 team in college football. We will have to wait and see. We should see North Dakota State, they're the #1 team in the country as of this exact moment. We'll see what they do, but Western Carolina, man, they are certainly playing the part of a top 5 team, a team that has a legitimate shot of getting that first round bye. And it would be the first playoff appearance for Western Carolina, because the last couple of years they've had good football teams that were ranked in the top 25, but they've been ineligible, and now they're outside of those sanctions now, looking to extend that lead. And J.C. Dallas gonna throw it right on the money. He finds the end zone. Touchdown, Catamounts. And JC Dallas, man, he's feeling himself. He's feeling really good. And we'll see if he can keep that going. This time, thrown over to the left-hand side. It is completed, but this time his receiver is actually going to fold on him a little bit. A little bit of a disheartening thing to do there. You got a chance to put more points on the board. You cannot fumble the football like this. Unfortunately, that advice was ignored. But the Catamounts will take over. Less than 3 minutes left to play. They have time to get some of his clock out of there. Up by 18. Have a chance to run out the rest of his clock. But they do fumble the football yet again, though. And now Arkansas Pine Bluff takes over with a couple minutes left to play. They will need a miracle in order to get back into this football game. It's Cool Beans. It's going to throw over to the right-hand side. It's going to be intercepted. And it's one of your guys' customs, Pistol McNeil, with the interception. And we want to add insult to injury as well. One of the offensive weapons for Arkansas Pine Bluff, David Todd. Looks like he hurt his hand a little bit there. Hopefully he can get a little bit of stem and ice and he'll be perfectly fine and good to go. But either way, Western Carolina, they will remain undefeated here on this season as they take down Arkansas Pine Bluff here at home, and they also get a really impressive home win, winning by a final score of 28-10. Pine Bluff, they will be taking on their second loss of the season, but they are still well in the hunt. But this Catamount team might be on a different level, especially with their backup quarterback. Now, speaking of quarterback play, we go to two teams that have been really putting in some good work for their quarterbacks. We got Weber State, the Wildcats, also no longer under NCAA sanctions for the first time in a couple of seasons. They will be going on the road to take on the Eastern Washington Eagles, who we did see make it to the FCS playoffs last year, and they made it all the way to the round of 16. They made it to that second round, almost pulling the upset off on San Diego State, but some untimely turnovers did cost them there back in year number 4. So we'll see if Eastern Washington can get this big-time win. Winning this game would mean they would themselves would be ranked in the top 25, and they would kick off a fellow conference opponent too in the process. That's a pretty good way to start, you know, forcing Aveline Thomas to throw an untimely interception in order to start this game. And now Eastern Washington, they will take over as they will drop back with their quarterback, Carl Joseph Fousen, who throws it on the money, and that is a 1st and goal now for the Eagles, as this offense, man, it is soaring on their first drive of the season, and also an offense that has always found a way to score in the red zone. They're number 1 in the country in that category. Can they keep the perfection going? Throwing over the middle of the field and finds Tony Barrett on a nice diving grab into the end zone. Touchdown, Eastern Washington. And it's now going to be a 10-0 lead. So a strong start for Eastern Washington, but with some things for sure, Aveline Thomas is also going to bring it. He's going to fire over to the right-hand side. Looks like a nice little out route there, thrown on the perimeter. And that will go for a really good first down. Ballhawk Woods pushing that tight end out of bounds in order to prevent the touchdown, but that will not last very long, though, as Aveline Thomas does answer back. And it's back to being just a field goal game. 20 seconds left in the first half, trying to, make something happen before we go into the halftime locker room. But we do have something that has happened kind of often here for Carl J. Fousen. He's going to be throwing an interception here towards the end of the first half. Looks like he was trying to either get that fullback or the wide receiver. Bad throw either way. And now Aveline Thomas, with a chance to get some points on the board, escapes from the pressure. And oh my goodness, you got barbecue and you didn't invite me? Hurt my feelings. And Aveline Thomas's feelings surely hurt here. How about the ability to escape the pressure and then still keep your eyes downfield for a timely touchdown pass. And Evelyn Thomas giving Weber State the lead and the momentum as well. We'll see if they can build off that momentum that they already have. 1st and 10 from the 41-yard line. Thomas throwing over the middle of the field is completed, but there's a football on the ground that might have been either Overstreet or Tyler Powers. We'll see the replay real quick if this was indeed the custom. And it wasn't. It was Overstreet that did fumble that football. And now, just a golden opportunity for Weber State to add to their lead. And instead, Eastern Washington, they might be taking the lead themselves. And they do. The running back is going to just high step his way into the end zone. You cannot make this up. He high steps his way into the end zone. And it's a back and forth affair. 21-14 now your score, as Eastern Washington, they did go for the 2-point conversion, and they were successful in actually getting that 2-point conversion, and they might be adding some more points onto the scoreboard as well, as the Eagles of Eastern Washington, they get yet another fumble. This time it's Mitchell, and now the Eagles looking to drive into the end zone. 4th quarter of action. This would make it a 2-score game. Carl J. Felsen tried to reach out and get that ball across the plane, but he can't hang on. So that was a massive risk there by Carl Felsen. And Weber State meets him at the goal line and gets the ball out of his hands. That could very well be a difference maker, as it keeps Weber State in the football game, and this running game starts to find some breath. Haven't really been able to run the football all day long, but that will be their longest run of the entire game, and they're eventually able to drive down the field. Aveline fires down the middle of the field, and it's caught. Touchdown, Weber State. And now we have ourselves a tied football game. 21 apiece, can go either way. Carl looking to try to give his Eagle squad the lead back, but takes a very critical sack there. And now looking, could be a 3-and-out situation on our hands here. We'll see who Carl Felsen responds with. A throw to the left-hand side, but it's caught! It's caught! And Witherspoon finds his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles. In Eastern Washington, putting Weber State on upset alert. You want to talk about a guy that is coming out and making those big plays when it matters. We're certainly getting that there. And now Evelyn Thomas, he needs to respond. He's going to evade the pressure. Steps up, fires. Is it going to be a touchdown? It is. It is. Touchdown, Weber State. Evelyn Thomas creating magic once again. And after a 3-and-out by Eastern Washington, Weber State sets him up for a 44-yard field goal held by Jackson DeVell. The kick is up and it's good. Weber State is just barely, and I mean barely, going to survive. So a heartbreaking loss for the Eagles. They take their second loss of the year, but Weber State does make it to 4-0 here in the Year 5 campaign. What a game. So we've already seen 2 exciting games as we go into our first studio update, and we also get some good action here in the simulation. South Carolina State, for example, they actually lose on the road to Delaware 27-13, as the Bulldogs do fall to 3-2 in what was a surprising upset. As for Eastern Kentucky, they will also survive on the road as they had a challenge against the Youngstown State Penguins. However, the Colonels were able to pull it off, winning 26-21. New Hampshire, meanwhile, was able to bounce back, as Jason would once say, as his team was able to beat Howard in this one in conference play, 35-19, as New Hampshire gets to 3-1. However, that being said, we did also have some not some upsets, but definitely some blowouts SMU being one of them. They blow out William and Mary in conference play, 51-17. Also getting upset is Southern in the Bayou Classic, as Grambling State, led by their quarterback Ray Waddle, pulls off a big-time upset, beating the Southern Jaguars 27-24. But now let's go ahead and jump into the watching of the #1 team in America. We got the North Dakota State Bison with that coveted #1 ranking, and they will be taking on a legitimate challenger in the 19th ranked Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. And you always love to see these top 25 battles in conference play. We already am going to see one such conference game from Western Carolina versus Arkansas Pine Bluff, and a little bit of a teaser, it won't be the only top 25 matchup, so we'll see which team can come out and really exert its own rhythm and its own style of football on the other team. And North Dakota State, they have not been a great offensive team this year, but that defense is something else. If North Dakota State can get to 25, this game could easily be over, and we could be talking about a big North Dakota State win. And off to a good start here as well. Gonna get John Weeks, one of your guys' customs, involved here as well, and the Bison will take a quick 10-0 lead. But then Tyrone Wolf sits on the other side. He's going to make a quick throw over to the left-hand side. And this year, he's got some athletes to work with as he runs all the way down into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Lumberjacks. They will not be shut down here in the Fargo Dome. And we are back to just a field goal game. Can North Dakota State find enough consistency? And this will not help, as that fumble is going to be recovered by Charles Hurst. That is I believe that's the sophomore. Yes, that is the sophomore linebacker making a play on that ball. And now Northern Arizona, they got a chance to take the lead, and they will do just that, as Tyrone Wolf, one of your guys' customs, dumps it off. And that's a touchdown for the Lumberjacks as they take the lead here in the Fargo Dome. We got ourselves a classic on our hands. So North Dakota State, they've given up 14 points after taking an initial 10-point lead. They're currently on a 14-0 run. Can they break that run up? And it looks like they don't actually, as they have to punt this football away yet again. So, you know, that Bison team off to a great start, but then they have really sputtered out as of late, and that's going to continue as this time we get a special teams touchdown for Northern Arizona. We're now talking 21 unanswered points and a 21-10 lead for the Lumberjacks. But can they put together a four-quarter, a complete game? That's going to be the really big thing, because we have seen teams, multiple teams, take the lead on North Dakota State, but many cannot finish. Though we'll see if this Northern Arizona squad is different, as it looks like it might not be that case, because we already see 2 turnovers here in the second half, back-to-back like a Drake song as well. And now North Dakota State, they can tie this football game up. That's not a crazy thing to think about. And now we're looking at a 1st and goal from the 7-yard line. Keefe, he's going to drop back the pass. He's going to throw over to the left-hand side. Throws it up, and it's going to be caught by Leron Montez. The guy, fun fact about Leron Montez, he was the first custom player ever to score a touchdown in this FCS Dynasty. That's all the way back in year number 2. And gives his team at least back into a 1-score game. And then they give up yet another touchdown. Tyrone Wolf strikes again right before the end of the 3rd quarter. Tyrone getting a great pocket to work from as well. We also do have a missed tackle there by Jim Sato. And it's a 28-19 game, but not for long though, as the points just keep coming and they just keep rolling. John Weeks throwing, just getting away from the rest of the defense. Who's covering this guy? I have absolutely no idea. They do not go for the 2-point conversion this time around, so it is a 2-point lead for the Lumberjacks. Can North Dakota State get that football back one last time? They got a couple of minutes left to play here in this game, and this run is going to be critical. 3rd and short, and look at this. It's going to be converted for a first down inside the 5-yard line. Darrell White with the play of the games potentially. Are you serious right now? This barbecue chicken is going to be a barbecue chicken kind of game as Darrell White, this run, going to seal the deal for the Lumberjacks, and they're going to pull the upset on North Dakota State. 31-26 ends up being your final score. For some reason, they did decide to kick a field goal, even though it was not necessary, and they could have easily just ran the rest of his clock out. So Futai, he's the kicker for Northern Arizona. One of your guys' customs, by the way. He does get a few points scored there. But North Dakota State goes down, and unless there's some tomfoolery in the top 25 rankings, we're going to be looking at Western Carolina being your new #1 team in the nation, potentially. But they are not the only top 25 team that is out on the field here today. Texas Southern takes the field. They come in ranked number 14 in the country. This is their conference opener, and they will be taking on Alabama A&M squad, who is not really close at the moment to getting into the top 25, but they do have an interesting team, a 2-0 start. That is nothing to scoff at. It is hard to win at the college level. You know, I don't care what anybody says. It's hard for certain programs at the very least. I said what I said, but Alabama A&M, they have a tight end by the name of Chris Palmer, and if that name sounds familiar, that's because he was at Georgia Southern. He's one of your guys' custom players as well. Transferred to Alabama A&M, sat out last year, and is now suiting up for Alabama A&M. So we'll see if Chris Palmer can get some targets in this one. Something that I am kind of looking after in a little side piece kind of thing. But it's been a very low scoring first quarter though. No one has really put up any points on the board. We still have goose eggs from both teams here, as it's still 0-0 before Adam Mayhem. He's gonna throw over the middle of the field, and man, he has really struggled over the course of his season. If Roderick Murray was not on this team, this Texas Southern squad is not ranked in the top 25, straight up and down. Like, you cannot make this throw. I don't know what he's trying to throw to, but thankfully he does get away with it though, as it still remains all tied up at 0 apiece. Mayhew, he's going to get better protection this time around, and this one does end up being caught. A huge play for Texas Southern, as they're going to be deep in Alabama A&M territory once again. But they haven't been great down here, just 64% on the season. They will go with the speed option over to the right hand side, and Roderick Murray is going to put some people on skates, as Roderick Murray is going to find his way into the end zone. Touchdown Tigers. And finally we get those first points of the ball game up on the scoreboard, but Alabama A&M is also going to put points on the board too, as Adam Mayhew, he was picked off once again. Just a bad read off to the left hand side, trying to dump it off to the flat, but it was completely covered and chunked, and it's now a tie ball game because of it. Picking up in the second half though, we do have some big plays out from this passing attack. And it is Solomon Less that's going to make a big play out on the perimeter, able to get away from a couple of defenders there. So now a third red zone opportunity here for the Texas Southern Tigers, as a look to get it to Roderick Murray. Everyone knows who's going to get the football. It is him, and you can see why. The level of burst and strength, able to use that vision too. And now a 14-7 lead, but can still be won by either team here. Alabama A&M trying to mount a comeback, but it's simply not their day today. Their offensive line not really helping the cause out whatsoever. So So it's going to be a fumble on the field, and that fumble will be recovered by Texas Southern. Texas Southern going to try to force Alabama A&M to take some timeouts. They do get to a 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line, and Roderick Murray is going to punch it in another time. The 2nd touchdown for Roderick Murray in this one, and this game should very well be over, but you never know in this beautiful game that is college football. Trying to throw over the middle of the field for one last gasp of air, but it looks like they are running out of oxygen as Sean Green is going to get the interception. And it looks like unless there's something absolutely crazy that happens, Texas Southern, they will run out the rest of this clock. So not an impressive performance here for Texas Southern, but they will win by a final score of 21-7. Now, for those that are kind of wondering about how Chris Palmer did, and he really didn't have any highlights in this game. He didn't make any big plays out there for Alabama A&M. I think he managed to have like 2 catches for 15 yards, so not a really big game, but you really can't say that it's on him, a tight end, when they only had like 40 yards of total offense, but their defense did end up keeping them in this game. Speaking of those elite defenses, we now go to the Big Ten Conference in a battle of top 25 teams. We got number 24 ranked Southeast Missouri State, who is stumbling in at 2-2, also looking for their get-right game. They're going to take on Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois, they are just hanging on to the fringes right now, number 21 in the country, and whoever does end up losing this game, they are not going to be ranked in the top 25 when that next AP poll is going to come out. So a critical game for both teams to not only try to stay alive in their respective conference races, or I guess same conference, so that Big Ten Conference, but also to, to keep up in the top 25 poll. Keep yourself in a viable spot to go and grab yourselves an at-large bid. And how about this run to start the game? That is a way to get those demons exercised, and that's going to be a touchdown for the Red Hawks of Southeast Missouri State. How about that movement on the offensive line, though, leading the way, and that's going to be a touchdown for the Red Hawks. And now putting some pressure on Lobdell, who's going to throw over to the left-hand side. Does manage to get it out to Phoenix Firebird, which one of my favorite custom player names, by the way. Whoever made that guy up, kudos to you. But not kudos to you is your guy fumbled the football. So not a great look. It does set up Southeast Missouri State with another chance to put points on the board as Travis Johnson throws over the middle of the field, but that gets intercepted, and that's a golden opportunity loss. That is Travis Johnson throwing that ball up into coverage where it probably should not have been thrown. And listen, it was good protection. He had a lot of protection to work with there, and it just didn't work out that way. But Southeast Missouri State, they still have a 10-0 lead going into the end of the first half. But that will be extended, though, going into the halftime locker room, as Travis Johnson does make up for his earlier interception. Gets another touchdown up onto the board before we go into halftime. And they will come in with a 17-0 lead. Now, jumping into the second half of action, though, we start with another turnover for this Red Hawks defense. This could go all the way, and Corey Lobdell, of all people, is going to prevent the touchdown. That's what I call never giving up on a play. That's what we witnessed there. But Lobdell just throwing it up into coverage. It was double, triple covered. Right in between Kentrill, I believe Glenn Scarone is in there too, and eventually Southeast Missouri State gets a field goal out of it, and it's now a 20-3 lead. Late in the third quarter of action here as Travis Johnson lines up in the shotgun formation. He will try to pass his football over to the right-hand side, and somehow gets deflected back in bounds. You literally cannot make this up, and that is how Aaron Sims gets his very first interception of the season. Just an insane deflection, and you can't really blame it on Travis Johnson. That's just terrible luck. Really terrible luck. And now this Red Hawks defense really in a compromised position right now. But we will see Joseph Lysiak, one of your guys as customs, get the sack. Provides the defense with a little bit of breathing room. But eventually Eastern Illinois will find their way into the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Panthers, as Ralph Ranks does get the only offensive touchdown for Eastern Illinois Panthers. And they tried to come back. They tried to go for an onside kick. Doesn't work out. And those offensive points that we saw were too little too late. Eastern Illinois definitely a candidate for a team that was considered overrated coming into the season. What we've seen for the first 3 games from them, it's very much validated. 1-2. They lose to Southeast Missouri State. They could not figure out this elite defense once again, as they only get 100 yards of total offense. And the Red Hawks, they badly needed this win, and that is exactly what they're going to get as they find themselves back over 500. So while that last game was still happening, we had some more scores report in for the 6 o'clock game. So we'll go ahead and have another studio update. Ohio is not going to spend very much time in the top 25 because they lose to Temple on the road 31-13, as Temple also makes their case to be a top 25 team. As for San Diego State, though, this is a shocker. They lose to UNLV 24-23 as the Aztecs take their first loss of the season. However, the team that avoids that track, though, is the Akron Zips, as they are still undefeated on the season. This time they beat Central Michigan in conference play 45-7. So we have seen the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country play here in the FCS Dynasty, at least here in week number 6. We'll see how this number 3 team in the country goes, as they should have a pretty straightforward game. They go on the road and take on a Wofford team that is historically, at least over the course of this series, they have straight up not been good. They're 1-4. They're led by their freshman quarterback, Dakota Towson, who does have some talent on him, but he doesn't have a lot of help, though. We'll see if Dakota Towson can hold his own against one of the best teams in the entire country, but this could be a big indicator of how things go. Is now in a 3rd and 17, Dakota being asked to throw the football, fires over the middle, but it's actually caught. It's completed, and Wofford's going to pick up the first down. Jeffrey McCargo with a 25-yard reception. How do you give up that many yards on a 3rd and 17? Thankfully, there will be more than one 3rd down chance for him to get off the field, but again, Wofford picks up another big 3rd down, and Wofford finds their way into the end zone. And I don't know how this is possible, but they got a 7-0 lead. Wofford's going to take the lead, and crazy part is Dakota Towson didn't even get everything on that football. He ended up, getting sacked, or at least he get hit as he threw that football. And, I don't know what's going on, but Wofford has a 2-touchdown lead. They are up by 2 touchdowns, and this game is a beautiful example of, why you play the game, why things are typically not decided on paper, at least in a gameplay perspective anyways. And not only are they making plays on offense, they're making plays on defense too, or at least so we thought, except Sam Houston State, they force a fumble with one of their offensive players. So one of the more lethargic first halves that we've seen from Sam Houston State. They're now down 14-3 at the half. So now David Bullock's going to try to get his troops to the line as they're trying to get this comeback going downfield. He's going to hand it off to Miniachi, who's going to high step and do a little bit of showboating in his way into the end zone. That is going to be a touchdown for Sam Houston State. Will that be enough, though, to get them going? 14-10, still your score is David Bullock. He's going to drop back the pass, throws to the left-hand side, but overthrows his wide receiver. He straight up overthrows him yet again, and it's just been a shocking revelation, a shocking development, as Wofford has a legitimate chance late in this game to win. Dakota throws to the left-hand side, but he is going to be intercepted as well. So Dakota Townsend, not a perfect game for him, but Sam Houston State, they do get the football at the 34-yard line. A chance to win the game. 2nd and 5. Bullock throws to the left-hand side, but it's intercepted too. David Bullock just having one of those games as Brandon Cox is going to pick off David Bullock off of the deflection nonetheless, and the impossible happens. Wofford beats Sam Houston State 17-10. I literally cannot. Are my eyes deceiving me? Are my eyes literally deceiving me right now? That is the million-dollar question. And they are not. Wofford gets their 2nd win of the season. A huge upset. The biggest upset that we've seen in the entire season. As Sam Houston State takes their 1st loss of the entire year. So in the spirit of upsets, we'll see if Portland State can do the same thing, although this wouldn't be as nearly as shocking of an upset if this was happened to be pulled off, as we will go ahead now and see Portland State take on Sacramento State, a rivalry game out in the Northwest, the specific Northwest. Sounding like a SpongeBob episode, but Sacramento State, we know about Corey Hall, one of the more skilled quarterbacks in the FCS, been a little bit of a gunslinger over the course of his season, 13 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. But Lee Corso is going to be rocking with Portland State, though. We'll see if that's going to be on target or not, as Corey Hall, he will drop back the pass throw to the right-hand side. He was looking for one of his favorite targets, Jacob Hill, for the very first pass of the game, and ends up being intercepted. He does end up being picked off there, just making a good play on the ball. And now we will see if Portland State can answer with some points to start the game, and they do. Huge touchdown grab to get things started, and Portland State, they come out and they will take a 7-0 lead. Carl Pierre able to give the Portland State Vikings the lead on the road. So now we go into our 2nd drive of the game, and this time Jackson, he's going to make the catch down the sideline. Corey Hall, he's going to get touchdown pass number 14, and he does. Touchdown, Sacramento State. That's going to be an 83-yard strike, a 83-yard touchdown. Just taking advantage of the speed and athleticism. There was a mismatch on the outside, and Corey Hall took advantage of it. Matter of fact, he can give them the lead for the very first time today as well, but then is also going to be intercepted. It's going to be taken back into the end zone. Touchdown, Portland State. And there was that gunslinger mentality that we were talking about. Just really lock it in on Jacob Hill, man. And I know Jacob Hill's a good receiver, but, you know, you can't force feed it to your receivers, no matter how good they are. If it's not there, it's simply not there. But Espinoza, though, he's there, and he's ready to make a play. And how about this play by Corey Hall, stepping up in the pocket, pulling a little bit of magic there, that little Mahomes no-looker, stepping up, the Joe Burrow warm-up. You know, he's got that dog in him, that's for sure. You know, and that's why he does have that impact star. But Sacramento State, they got some players on the defensive side of the football as well. Tama Mascot is one of them, and he nearly takes it back all the way to the crib. They will go ahead and mark him down at that 2-yard line. So a 1st and goal after the turnover. We'll see if they go to that running game led by Willie Hendricks. They actually don't. Corey Hall gets absolutely lifted up like a Christmas tree, as Julian Thompson's able to find his way back. And the Portland State defense giving a little bit of breathing room, but that breathing room not going to last long, as Jacob Hill is going to be found in the back of the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Hornets. And it's been a very competitive first half as well. Sacramento State taking a 24-17 lead. How about we make that a 31-17 instead of 17 lead after another touchdown by Corey Hall. So Sacramento State starts to open up this game a little bit, and if Portland State's not careful, they could easily fall out of this game, and they're certainly not going to give up. And this is the exact answer that they needed, as Portland State responds with a touchdown of their own from the Sherman Tank. He's going to bring them into the end zone, and it's a touchdown for the Sacramento State Hornets. So we're now talking about a 31-24 lead for Sacramento State. So Vikings still right back into this game, but they need to get another big play if they want to tie this up. Espinoza looks to switch course, and Espinoza, he's going to take it all the way to the crib. He is going to be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown Hornets. And that's another one, 38-24. And this is where Sacramento State really kicks it up another gear. Corey fires over to the left-hand side, throws a dime to Kevin Espinoza, who nearly has 100 yards receiving in this football game. He's on a completely another level right now. How about this throw? Throwing it on a dime right in the trash can, and it does lead to another touchdown for the Hornets, although that one was a little bit uglier, but hey, they still found a way to find the end zone nonetheless. That was originally the fullback that should have gotten that touchdown, but hey, it still looks the same, no matter how pretty or ugly the touchdown is. So now we're talking 45-24 your score as Corey Hall throws to the left-hand side. Espinoza is going to find the end zone once again. He'll find a 22-yard touchdown once more as Corey Hall throws to the left-hand side, and he's good to go. 1st and 10 now from the 16-yard line as we'll get it out to the Sherman, trying to, get back into this football game. But in this second half was all Sacramento State. The Hornets, man, they are stinging. And that was Bell that absolutely rung the bell of the Sherman Tank. In Sacramento State, they come out and they eventually win this game very convincingly, 55-24. You want to talk about making a statement in conference play? This is one way to do it. In Sacramento State, they are showing that, hey, maybe they're one of the best teams in the conference. So that will bring to the final game that we wanted to show here in gameplay here today. It's Mississippi Valley State, the Delta Devils. That is one heck of a name right there. They will play host to the number 7 team in all of college football. Now, I'm not sure how Chattanooga worked all the way up to number 7, but, here we are, barbecue on the titties. They're in the position to get a first-round bye if they can keep up the level of play that they've had to start this season out. We'll see just how good Chattanooga is as Mark Spicer starts by throwing it over the middle of the field and finds one of his custom receivers, Malachi Ross, who gets his hands up in coverage and will manage to pick up that first down. But Chattanooga does not move the ball much further after that, and they will actually be forced to punt this football away, as this punt is going to be up into the air, and it does end up being caught by Andrew Berry, I believe that is his number, 86, down the sideline, and he's gone. Touchdown, Delta Devils in Mississippi Valley State. They will have the lead against the number 7 team in all of college football. Can they keep it up, though, as Mark Spicer's offense comes out onto the field yet again? But that will also be intercepted. Chase Battle. That's interception number 4. And the Delta Devils, they are playing hard. They are built like a Ford truck because they are built Ford tough. And a golden chance for Mississippi Valley State to seize momentum. Throwing over to the right-hand side. That's Andrew Berry, who comes down and makes the catch. He actually does wear number 85. What a beautiful throw there on the perimeter. Throws it over the outstretched arms of the corner. It is now a red zone opportunity. 1st and 10 from the 18-yard line. Trying to throw over to the left-hand side. And that will be intercepted. Chattanooga's defense. They're more known for their offensive, high-powered attack. And man, did they not need that right now. That was Cade Yates, by the way, one of your guys' customs that caused some of that pressure. So now it's still a 7-0 lead for Mississippi Valley State, but it might not be lasting for much longer, though, as Mark Spicer throws it on a dime. And how about this throw one-on-one? Trusting his receivers, and Spicer, he's bringing it thus far. 1st and goal from the 3-yard line. Mike Thomas does get moved into the motion. He's in the game. Will they go to Mike Thomas? Throw into the left-hand side, and it's caught! It's for the tight end, Marco Walker, the custom. As Mark Spicer throws it across his body, and it still works out. It works. Chattanooga will eventually take the lead, and here we are in the second half. They're looking to find that rhythm a little bit more. Mike Thomas able to get a first big catch of the game, gets him inside the 5-yard line, but they run the football on 1st and goal from the 2, and Chattanooga, they will be punching it in. That will be just a 2-yard touchdown run. 17-7. Your score eventually makes it 20-7. And Mississippi Valley State, you know they're starting to get deference when they're trying to pull out some of the tomfoolery and the trickery. And it works. The halfback pass does work. They are able to fool the Chattanooga defense. And we'll see if the Delta Devils can find that end zone yet again. They put together a good drive so far, but can they finish? Quarterback throw it over to the left-hand side, trying to fire towards the back of the end zone, but there's going to be no cigar there as Chattanooga does get yet another interception there, and that could spell deep trouble, a disaster. Thankfully, Chattanooga, they could not move the football very much, so in the long term, it does end up being an arm punt. Mississippi Valley State, they do get one more chance, but a 3rd interception that was thrown is going to get that fat lady warmed up, and she is starting to sing as Mississippi Valley State will drop to 1-2 here on the season, while Chattanooga, they're still undefeated. And listen, this Chattanooga squad, they're 4-0. They're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat, but going to be really interested to see how Chattanooga handles the pressure, because they've made the playoffs once. They made it off the benefit of teams being under NCAA investigation and, you know, being ineligible for the playoffs because of that. They're looking for their first legitimate playoff appearance that they earned instead of having it given to them through those NCAA sanctions. And Chattanooga, so far, doing just that, getting the 4-0. So guys, I'm not going to lie to you, I fumbled the bag a little bit in that last episode. I was going to show the conference standings in the last episode, but we'll squeeze it in here in this episode. But first, I want to give you guys a quick update on what went on the 8 o'clock games while we're watching some action and gameplay. Northwestern State, for example, had their rivalry game against McNeese State, and the Cowboys came up short as the Demons, winning 31-17, gets a 5-0 on the season. That being said, we do have some blowouts that happened. The battle for the Silver Shot Go that happened in Charleston, South Carolina, and the Citadel blows out Furman. Citadel winning 38-7 as Furman still looking for that first win of the season. Georgia Southern, meanwhile, continue to have some minor offensive issues, but they're still a pretty good football team. They beat the Elon Phoenix in conference play 29-7. And the last game that I wanted to talk about before showing the conference standings is Murray State. They went on the road to take on Tennessee Martin, and Murray State wins 28-21. We're talking about a Racers team that potentially could earn their way into the top 25. We'll have to see if that happens when we check out these conference standings, which we'll go ahead and do that right about now. So we made it through 6 weeks of the season so far. We're also getting too close to the halfway point in terms of the conference play action, but let's see how the conference standings are shaking out so far. And starting with the ACC Atlantic Division, we do already have some surprises. Florida A&M sitting on top. They are 3-0 in conference play right now. They're looking fantastic. but Bethune-Cookman is not too far behind, 2-1 in conference play, and their only loss is currently to this Florida A&M squad. As for the Coastal Division, we still have an equally surprising proposition as Delaware State finds themselves at 3-0. They are leading everybody. They have a significant lead over James Madison, New Hampshire, Hampton, and North Carolina A&T State, who are all 1.5 games behind right now. For the Big Ten Conference is still getting started. You know, we're still seeing some teams emerge in that conference. Multiple undefeated teams, so including Murray State, who just got ranked, Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky, Southeast Missouri State. They're rebounding off of a bad non-conference slate that they had earlier in the season. And Sanford, who is also undefeated off of one game. Also got to keep an eye out for Tennessee Tech, though. They're not ranked, but they are receiving top 25 votes, with Tennessee Martin still hanging around in that top 25. For the Big 12 is, you know, not really a lot going on. They literally just started their conference play. Right now, Chattanooga, Alabama State, Grambling State, and Alcorn State are all tied for first place, with Jackson State and Arkansas Pine Bluff obviously still in the picture. So, you know, a lot that, you know, needs to be said. South Division, though, South Division looks not as competitive, but definitely got to keep an eye out for Texas Southern and Western Carolina, two top 10 teams that are no longer under NCAA sanctions, so they can compete for an FCS playoff spot now. I expect both of them to be in the playoffs this year. Alabama A&M, Prairie View, Southern, and Mississippi Valley State all went 0-1 in their conference games. For the Big East is also kind of in its infancy for year number 5, but you know, could see a different team potentially. Columbia is sitting there at 1-0, followed by Brown and Cornell hanging in there as well. At 1-1, so they're a half game behind, is the Penn Quakers, who their only win is in Ivy League play, with Dartmouth and Yale also at 1-1. Princeton and Harvard are still looking for their first wins of the season. As for the Conference USA East Division, we do have an early leader, and its name is the Richmond Spiders. The Spiders are 2-1 in conference play, followed by Eastern Carolina and UCF. Richmond's last win was against that UCF team, so if they can take care of Eastern Carolina as well, they'll have a really good track to make it to their conference championship game. And that's really important because coming out of the West Division could be SMU, who is in first place and technically tied with Rice. Neither team has lost, but if SMU makes it to the conference championship game, whoever wins that Eastern Division automatically goes to the FCS playoffs. Also to keep an eye out for is Villanova, who's 2-1, and Hofstra, who is 2-1 as well so far. For the IA Independents, there's not really a lot to talk about. Temple, really the only team ranked in the top 25 right now. They're 4-1. They just entered the AP top 25. They're going to have to continue their strong play in order to make the FCS playoffs as an independent school. For the MAC, Akron is now up to number 2 in the entire country after their strong start to the season. Ohio and surprisingly Illinois State have not lost any games, at least not yet. But then we go over to the West Division. West Division is not looking as good. There's a two-way tie right now with Eastern Michigan and Western Illinois. They're both sitting at 1-0 in conference play as of right now. Central Michigan and Western Michigan, so those two Michigan schools are in the picture, with Southern Illinois and Ball State hanging in there as well. For the Mountain West, we have a two-way tie for first place at the moment, as Southern Missouri State is tied with the University of Missouri Kansas City. Neither team has won to the FCS playoffs just yet, and winning this conference does provide them with that automatic berth. Also hanging in there is UNLV, San Diego State, who fell to 14 after their loss to UNLV, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, and Omaha. They're chilling at 1-0 as well. Pac-10, meanwhile, does not have a conference championship game, but they do have some good competition. A very good conference. Northern Arizona, Weber State, Sacramento State, and North Dakota all tied for first place right now with that 1-0 conference record. 3 of those teams in the top 25. Still have not seen Montana State or Idaho State play their conference games, but they will in next week's episode. And then teams that lost include North Dakota State, who still sits at number 7. Eastern Washington, who went to the FCS playoffs last year. Montana and Portland State, that Portland State squad made their first FCS playoff appearance. They were ranked number 16 in the country right now. Up next is the SEC Conference, and we'll start with the Eastern Division. Texas State is sitting there with a 3-0 record. They're currently leading the way. Georgia Southern currently in danger right now of missing the SEC championship. That would be a major surprise, as well as the Wofford Terriers winning multiple conference games. Good for them. Don't expect them to make the playoffs or make any major noise, but they're already making major progress. They got a couple of upsets on their name. Nicholls State, they are 1 game back as well, as they have only played 1 conference game so far, so they're a team to watch out for as well moving forward. Over in the West Division, though, Northwestern State returns back to form. They've been a solid football program. Year 4 was a down year for them, but they're one of the better teams that have not made the FCS playoffs so far in this series, but they look to change that narrative this year. St. Houston State, they had that really surprising loss to Wofford. They took them down to number 13 because of that. Southeastern and Elon are also hanging in there with a 1-1 conference record. Usually I don't talk about the Sun Belt, but I will make an exception, because even though the Sun Belt does not get an automatic bid, they do have a team that does have the potential to make to the FCS playoffs this year, and that is North Texas. They're currently sitting at number 21 in the entire country. They are the only ranked top 25 team that is in this Sun Belt conference. And then the last conference I want to talk about is the WAC. The WAC conference has a 2-way tie at the moment. New Mexico State and Utah State are sitting there at 2-1, but Oral Roberts, they are not too far behind. They're a half game back at 2-1 at the moment. They do play New Mexico State, and that could determine who gets that WAC conference title later on. Also hanging in there at the moment is San Jose State. St. Thomas, the former Division III school in Northern Colorado, although they're not eligible for the FCS playoffs this year, even if they do make it, because they are under NCAA probation. So guys, that is going to wrap things up here for week number 6 action. This was an electric episode. I really did enjoy this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as well. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand spanking new to the channel, as next episode we will have 8 games that are all featured on national television according to the NCAA Next Mod itself. So we're going to check all those games out and then kind of get back into that groove, see if there's any changes in the top 25 Heisman race or that player of the week. So hope you guys are ready for that, but in meantime, like I said, man, make sure you hit that like button, as that helps me out tremendously. Hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new to the channel too. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.